What would you do if you discovered that the people you loved most in this world only cared about your money? Would you want to know the truth, even if it destroyed you? This is the story of Chief Adekunle Babalola, a man who had everything: wealth, status, respect, but who made one decision that would change his life forever. He pretended to be dying just to see who truly cared. What he found out broke him in ways money could never fix. But before we continue, if you enjoy stories that make you think about life, family, and what really matters, please hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. Now let me take you into the world of Chief Adekunle Babalola. Chief Babalola was not just wealthy. He was the kind of wealthy that made people whisper when he entered a room. At 68 years old, he owned one of the largest manufacturing companies in Lagos, with branches in Abuja, Port Harcourt, and even 3 West African countries. His mansion in Ikoyi was the kind you only saw in magazines, with 12 bedrooms, a private cinema, an indoor pool, and a staff of 23 people who catered to his every need. He had worked for this life. Born in a small village in Oyo State, Chief Babalola had sold pure water on the streets of Ibadan as a child, studied under candlelight because there was no electricity in his family's compound, and hustled his way through university with nothing but determination and a dream that refused to die. By 30, he had his first factory. By 40, he was a millionaire. By 50, he was one of the most respected businessmen in Nigeria. But success has a price, and Chief Babalola paid it with his time. His wife, Folake, had been beautiful once. The kind of beautiful that made men turn their heads. She was from a good family, educated, sophisticated, and when they married 35 years ago, Chief Babalola had believed they would build an empire together. And they did. But somewhere along the way, in between business meetings and international trips, and late nights at the factory, the love slipped away. These days, Folak spent her time at the spa, at society weddings, at charity galas, where she wore expensive lace and smiled for cameras. They barely spoke anymore, except when necessary. They lived in the same house but occupied different worlds. Then there were his children. Adebayo, his first son, was 33 years old and supposed to be learning the family business. Chief Babalola had sent him to study business administration at the University of Manchester, hoping he would return ready to take over the company one day. But Adebayo had returned with expensive tastes, a luxury car collection, and absolutely no interest in hard work. He showed up to the office twice a week if Chief Babalola was lucky, spent company money on parties and women, and seemed to believe that being the son of a wealthy man was a full-time job in itself. His daughter Funmilayo was 29. She was the beauty of the family, with her mother's elegant features and a lifestyle funded entirely by her father's bank account. She had never worked a day in her life. She spent her time shopping in Dubai, posting on Instagram, and dating men who were attracted to her last name and the wealth that came with it. Chief Babalola had tried to get her interested in the business, in doing something meaningful, but Funmilayo would just laugh and say, "Daddy, why would I stress myself when you have already made it for us?" The youngest, Chukwudi, was 25. He was different from the others, quieter, and Chief Babalola had once hoped he would be the responsible one. But Chukwudi had discovered a love for the fast life. Clubs, betting, designer clothes, and friends who only came around when there was money to spend. He had dropped out of university twice, and now he just drifted through life, waiting for his monthly allowance and spending it before the month was even halfway done. Chief Babalola loved his children. He had worked himself nearly to death to give them the life he never had. But lately a painful question had been growing in his mind. Did they love him, or did they just love his money? The question haunted him at night when the house was quiet and he lay in his massive bed alone, staring at the ceiling. It troubled him during board meetings when he should have been focusing on business. It whispered to him when his children called, because these days they only called when they needed something. More money for a business that would never start. More money for a trip. More money for an emergency that was never really an emergency. He tried to tell himself he was being paranoid. These were his children, his blood. Surely they loved him. But doubt is a powerful thing, and once it enters your mind, it grows like a weed, choking out everything else. Then one Tuesday morning, Chief Babalola made a decision that would change everything. He was sitting in his study reviewing quarterly reports when the thought struck him with absolute clarity. He would test them. He would pretend to be dying and see how they reacted. Would they care about him, or would they only care about the inheritance? Would they show love, or would they show their true faces? It was a dangerous game, he knew, but he had to know the truth. He had to know if he had spent his whole life building wealth for people who only saw him as a bank account. So Chief Babalola began to plan. First, he called his personal doctor, Dr. Adekunle, who had been treating him for years. Dr. Adekunle was a trusted friend, discreet and professional. Chief Babalola explained what he wanted to do, and though the doctor was initially hesitant, he eventually agreed to help. Within a week, Dr. Adekunle delivered the news to the family during a dinner at the mansion. He had asked everyone to be present, which was already unusual since the family rarely ate together anymore. Folklore sat at one end of the long mahogany table, checking her phone. Adebayo lounged in his chair looking bored. Funmilayo filed her nails. Chukwudi scrolled through Instagram. Dr. Adekunle cleared his throat. I need to discuss Chief's health with all of you. That got their attention. Phones were lowered, eyes turned toward the doctor. After conducting several tests, I have discovered that Chief Babalola has advanced stage liver disease. The damage is significant, and I'm afraid the prognosis is not good. With treatment, he may have 6 months to a year. Without treatment, possibly less. The room went silent. Chief Babalola watched his family's faces carefully, searching for genuine emotion, for fear, for love. What he saw made his heart sink. Folake's hand flew to her mouth, but her eyes remained dry. How is this possible, she asked, but her voice lacked the tremor of true grief. It sounded more like surprise, like someone had announced an unexpected change in plans. Adebayo leaned forward, and Chief Babalola saw calculation in his eyes. What kind of treatment are we talking about? How much will it cost? Funmilayo's eyes widened, but not with tears. She looked shocked, yes, but there was something else there too. Something that looked almost like excitement. Daddy, you can't be serious. You have to fight this. Only Chukwudi said nothing. He stared at the table, his jaw clenched. Dr. Adekunle continued with the lie they had planned. There are treatment options, but Chief will need to reduce his stress levels significantly. He should not be working. He needs rest, care, and time with family. That night, Chief Babalola lay in his bed and felt more alone than he had ever felt in his life. His wife had gone to her separate bedroom without even checking on him. His children had eventually said goodnight, but their concern felt hollow, rehearsed. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he was judging them too harshly. He decided to give them time. Surely in the coming days they would show their love. But the days that followed broke his heart piece by piece. The first week, there was a flurry of activity. Folklore organized a family meeting to discuss logistics, which mostly involved asking about Chief Babalola's will and whether it was up to date. She suggested he might want to review it with the lawyers, just to make sure everything is in order. Adebayo began spending more time at home, but not with his father. Instead, he was in the study, going through business documents, asking the accountant questions about company assets, meeting with lawyers about succession plans. When Chief Babalola tried to talk to him, Adebayo would say, Daddy, rest. Don't worry about business. I'm handling everything. But the way he said it made Chief Babalola's blood run cold. His son wasn't stepping up to help. He was preparing to take over. Funmilayo's Instagram posts changed. Suddenly, she was posting pictures of herself looking sad and contemplative, with captions about cherishing family and life being precious. She gained thousands of followers in days. People commented with sympathy, calling her brave, calling her strong. She was monetizing his supposed illness, turning his pain into content. And when she visited him in his room, she would take selfies, her face arranged in an expression of concern, and then she would leave after 5 minutes, saying she had an important meeting. Chukwudi worried Chief Babalola the most because he seemed to be the only one genuinely affected. He stopped going out. He stayed in his room. But when Chief Babalola tried to talk to him, Chukwudi would just nod and leave. There was a distance there, a wall that Chief Babalola couldn't break through. Then came the conversations he was never supposed to hear. One evening, 2 weeks into the pretense, Chief Babalola was resting in his bedroom when he heard voices in the hallway. Folake and Adebayo were talking, and they didn't know he was awake. The lawyer said the will splits everything equally among the children, but I get the house and a monthly allowance, Folake was saying. I told him that's not enough. I've been married to this man for 35 years. I deserve more than an allowance. Don't worry, Mama, Adebayo replied. Once I take over the company, I'll make sure you're taken care of. But we need to make sure Daddy signs over the business control to me now, while he's still alive. It will make the transition smoother. And what about your brother and sister? They'll get their share of the money, but the business should come to me. I'm the first son. It's tradition. Chief Babalola felt something die inside him as he listened. This was his wife, his son, and they were discussing his death like it was a business transaction. It got worse. A few days later, he overheard Funmilayo on the phone with someone, probably a boyfriend. She was in the garden thinking she was alone. Baby, just be patient, she was saying. I know I said I would help you with your business, but I need to wait. Once Daddy's gone, I'll have access to my inheritance. We're talking millions. We can do whatever we want then. The person on the other end must have said something because Funmilayo laughed. Of course I'm sad, but honestly, it might be better this way. He's old, he's sick, and at least this way, we don't have to wait decades for him to die naturally. I know that sounds terrible, but I'm just being honest. Chief Babalola stood at the window, watching his daughter, and felt tears stream down his face for the first time in 20 years. But it was what happened 3 weeks into his test that finally broke him completely. He had become weaker, deliberately moving slowly, eating less, staying in bed more. He wanted to see if anyone would notice, if anyone would care. Dr. Adelek came for regular checkups and would shake his head gravely, reporting that Chief was declining faster than expected. One afternoon, Chief Babalola pressed the bell in his room, the one that was supposed to summon someone if he needed help. He had pressed it deliberately, wanting to see who would come, how long it would take. He waited 5 minutes, then 10, then 15. Finally, one of the house staff, a young woman named Blessing, came hurrying in, looking worried. Sir, are you okay? I just saw the light. I came as fast as I could. Where is everyone? Chief Babalola asked weakly. Blessing looked uncomfortable. Madam went out for lunch with her friends. Mr. Adebayo went to the office. Miss Funmilayo is at the spa, and Mr. Chukwudi is in his room, but he said he doesn't want to be disturbed. Chief Babalola nodded slowly. His own family couldn't even be bothered to check on him. Blessing, he said quietly, how long have you worked here? 3 years, sir. And in those 3 years, have I treated you well? Very well, sir. You paid for my mother's surgery. You sent my younger brother to school. You have been more than kind. Chief Babalola smiled sadly. It's funny. I've done more for you, a stranger, than my own family seems willing to do for me now. Blessing's eyes filled with tears. Sir, I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do, just stay for a moment. Sit with me. I don't want to be alone. And so this young house girl, who was paid to clean and cook, sat with a dying man, or so she thought, and held his hand, while his own family was out living their lives, waiting for him to die. That night, Chief Babalola called Dr. Adelek and told him the test was over. He couldn't take any more. He knew the truth now, and it was more painful than any disease could ever be. But the doctor convinced him to wait just a little longer. Give them one more chance, Dr. Adelek said. Maybe they'll surprise you. So Chief Babalola agreed to one final test. He told the family that the doctors wanted to try an experimental treatment, but it was expensive and not guaranteed to work. It would cost 20 million naira, money that would have to come from his personal savings, not the business. He watched their faces as Dr. Adelek explained this. Folake immediately looked concerned, but not about her husband's health. 20 million? That's a lot of money. Are we sure this treatment will work? Nothing is guaranteed, Dr. Adelek said. Then maybe we should think about this, Folake continued. I mean, if it's not going to work anyway, why waste the money? Chief Babalola felt his heart shatter. Adebayo nodded. Mama's right. Daddy, we need to be realistic. You've always taught us to make smart financial decisions. Maybe we should get a second opinion before spending that kind of money. Funmilayo was at least pretending to look sad. Daddy, of course we want you to get better, but 20 million is a lot. Maybe there are other options. Only Chukwudi spoke up. What does it matter how much it costs? He's our father. Everyone turned to look at him. What's wrong with all of you? Chukwudi continued, his voice rising. We're sitting here talking about money when Daddy is dying. Who cares about 20 million? Who cares about 200 million? He's our father, don't you understand that? Folek's voice was sharp. Chukwudi, calm down. We're all upset, but we need to be practical. Practical? Chukwudi stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. You want to talk about practical? How about the fact that Daddy worked his entire life for this family? How about the fact that everything we have, this house, our cars, our lifestyle, all came from him? And now that he needs us, we're worried about money? It's easy for you to say, Adebayo shot back. You don't understand business. You don't understand what it takes to keep this family's wealth intact. I understand enough to know that if we can't spend money to save our father's life, then what's the point of having money at all? The room fell silent. Chief Babalola looked at his youngest son and saw something he hadn't seen before. Genuine love, genuine pain. And he realized that he had been wrong about Chukwudi. Maybe his son had been distant not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much and didn't know how to express it. That night, Chief Babalola made his decision. He would end the charade the next morning and reveal the truth. But before he could, something happened that he never expected. He woke up at 2 in the morning to the sound of someone crying. He got out of bed and followed the sound to Chukwudi's room. The door was slightly open, and he could see his son sitting on the floor, his back against the bed, sobbing into his hands. Chief Babalola pushed the door open. Chukwudi! His son looked up, his face wet with tears, and for a moment they just stared at each other. I can't lose you, Dad, Chukwudi finally said, his voice breaking. I know I've been a terrible son. I know I've wasted your money and disappointed you, but I can't lose you. You're the only person who has ever believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. Chief Babalola felt tears streaming down his own face. He sat down on the floor next to his son and pulled him into his arms, something he hadn't done since Chukwudi was a small boy. You're not losing me, he whispered. The doctors said, I'm not sick, Chukwudi. His son pulled back, confused. What? And so Chief Babalola told him everything. The test, the lies, the heartbreak of discovering that most of his family only cared about his money. Chukwudi listened in silence, and when his father finished, he said, I thought something was wrong. You seemed too healthy for someone who was supposed to be dying, but I was so scared of losing you that I didn't question it. I'm sorry, Chief Babalola said. I'm sorry I put you through this. Don't apologize. I understand why you did it, and now you know the truth about them. And about you, Chief Babalola said, gripping his son's shoulder. You're the only one who passed the test. You're the only one who truly cared. The next morning, Chief Babalola called a family meeting. Everyone gathered in the living room, looking somber, probably expecting more bad news. Instead, Chief Babalola stood before them, looking healthier than he had in weeks, and said, I'm not dying. I was never sick. It was all a test. The room erupted into chaos. Falaki stood up, her face red. What do you mean it was a test? How could you do something like this? How could I? Chief Babalola's voice was cold. How could you sit there and discuss my will while I was still alive? How could you worry more about money than about your husband? That's not fair. Don't talk to me about fair. For the first time in years, Chief Babalola raised his voice. I have given you everything, everything. And when I needed you, when I thought I was dying, you couldn't even sit with me for 5 minutes. Adebayo stood up too. Daddy, if you would just let me explain. Explain what? How you were planning to take over my business before I was even in the ground. How you saw my illness as an opportunity. Fumilayo was crying now, but Chief Babalola couldn't tell if the tears were real or just another performance. Daddy, I love you. You have to believe that. Do you? Because I heard you on the phone. I heard you tell your boyfriend that it would be better if I died sooner rather than later. Funmilayo's face went pale. She had no defense, no explanation that could make those words acceptable. Chief Babalola looked at each of them, and the disappointment in his eyes was worse than any anger could have been. I spent my entire life working for this family. I thought I was building something for you, a legacy, a future. But all I built was greed. I created children who see me as an ATM machine, not as a father. That's not true, Folak said, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? When was the last time any of you asked me how I was feeling, not because you wanted something, but because you actually cared? When was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you said you loved me and meant it? Silence. That's what I thought, Chief Babalola said quietly. Chugwoody stood up then. I care, Dad. I know I've made mistakes, but I care. Chief Babalola nodded. I know you do, son. You're the only one who does. Over the next few weeks, Chief Babalola made significant changes. He revised his will, leaving the bulk of his estate to Chukwudi with substantial provisions for charity. Folaki would receive the house and enough money to live comfortably, but nothing more. Adebayo and Fumalayo would receive token amounts, enough to be comfortable, but not enough to sustain their lavish lifestyles without working. He also restructured his company, appointing Chukwudi as his successor, with the condition that he would have to work his way up from the bottom, learning every aspect of the business. The family was furious, of course. Folake moved into the guest house, refusing to speak to him. Adebayo hired lawyers trying to contest the will, though legally there was nothing he could do. Funmilayo alternated between tears and rage, accusing her father of being cruel and unfair. But Chief Babalola stood firm. He had learned a painful lesson, that love cannot be bought, and that sometimes the people closest to you can be the furthest away. As for Chukwudi, he surprised everyone, including himself. Without the safety net of unlimited money, he discovered a work ethic and determination that had been dormant. He showed up to the factory every day at 6 in the morning. He learned the machines, worked alongside the staff, studied the financial reports late into the night. Chief Babalola watched his youngest son transform from a directionless boy into a man with purpose, and he felt something he hadn't felt in years: pride. Chief Babalola lived for many more years after that, but the relationship with most of his family never fully recovered. Some wounds are too deep to heal, but he had Chukwudi, and he had discovered which of his employees and staff truly cared for him as a person, not just as a boss. And he had learned the most important lesson of all, that wealth without love is poverty, and that sometimes the poorest people are those who have everything except what truly matters. Looking back, Chief Babalola would say that pretending to be sick was both the best and worst decision he ever made. It broke his heart, but it also opened his eyes. It destroyed his illusions, but it revealed the truth. And while the truth was painful, it was also liberating, because now he knew. And knowing, even when it hurts, is better than living a beautiful lie. If this story touched you, if it made you think about what truly matters in life, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We share stories that make you reflect on family, love, and the choices we make. Hit that subscribe button and join our community. Thank you for listening.